Welcome back to Market on Close. I'm Diane King Hall, live on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Time now for Overlooked Stocks. Taking a look at shares of TeraWulf that hit an all-time high today after reporting some preliminary earnings numbers for the upcoming quarter and announcing a long-term high-performance joint venture with FluidStack. I'm joined now by George Tsilis, senior markets correspondent, to break it all down, what this means. TeraWulf, I mean, we call this segment Overlooked Stocks. It feels like not today. I mean, that stock, a big move. It's already had a big move year to date. Tell us what's your take on this.
Well, I think the take is what's happening with a big group of these companies like Applied Digital, TeraWulf now, and BitDeer, Hunt 8 Mining, CleanSpark. I'm just naming several of the names or companies that are moving from, digital asset technology based in Bitcoin mining to essentially AI computing. And this has been a huge trend as of the last year. And TeraWulf is another one of these names that essentially has traditional Bitcoin mining facilities, but is opening up their computational technologies to AI computing and, of course, cloud infrastructure. And the spike actually today is pretty significant, considering that if you look at Google, which actually owns approximately about 14% through warrants of TeraWulf, the other deal today that is quite meaningful is the 25-year AI compute deal with FluidStack, which is essentially a AI cloud platform alongside Google. And this essentially increases the total revenue base potentially now for TeraWulf to over $380 million a year just in this deal alone. So if you just do the math, looking at the trailing sales for TeraWulf at 144, roughly speaking, $million, this essentially more than doubles their top line sales just for this deal alone. So it's a huge catalyst for the business. And a lot of these Bitcoin mining facilities, which, again, for those who don't know, use all these GPU chips to mine Bitcoin, are now enhancing their yield and economizing on these technologies for idle use to actually use for cloud computing and, of course, data center and AI computational needs. And of course, the backing of Google with TeraWulf is essentially a huge catalyst. It gives some credibility to the business, which, if you look at just the estimates prior to today's announcement, the estimates for sales this year were around $200 million. Next year estimates were $434 million. So I'm sure that based on this deal today, as I just annualized the $380 million annualized increase in potential sales, considering that $9.5 billion deal, estimates will probably rise based on this deal alone.
Okay, so it's got Alphabet, Google, that, as you mentioned, just gives it strong backing. It's like a heavyweight joining it. They point out no dilution. There's no new equity that's issued, so it's shareholder friendly. When you think about what's at stake here, is part of this just, kind of a shift into becoming more of an AI infrastructure play?
Yeah, that's essentially what's happening here. And of course, we're seeing these parallel technologies. Crypto is moving higher. Obviously, AI, core architecture names like NVIDIA are moving higher, AMD and so forth. But alongside that, we've got a whole parallel, group of companies that are both hybrid. They're Bitcoin mining facilities, but they're also now becoming AI computing facilities, which, again, at the margin is what we're starting to see across the board. Just to give you some context, CoreWeave is another business that is providing these, this computational as a service, if you will, or AI as a service technologies. And I think that's what's happening here with many of these smaller names like TeraWulf, which, if you look at the market cap at around 5.6 billion, is relatively small considering some of the mega caps we're always talking about. But nonetheless, at the margin where there's idle capacity, there's take up of these technologies based on offerings from companies like TeraWulf, which, again, are making investments in expanding the facilities, using the crypto mining technologies to, of course, run parallel computing associated with AI infrastructure. I think this is an interesting name, but just got to keep in mind that they lost money last year. They're not expected to earn any profit as of right now until 2027. So for what it's worth, you have to be mindful of that. And there's also, lastly, let me add to this, there's a huge short interest, around 25% of the free float. So maybe part of today's move is also a little bit of a short covering offering.
It's possible. Right now, those shares rallying about 18% at the moment, so not quite at its peak, but still strong momentum today. That's George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent. Thank you, George.